We begin with a major ruling making waves in Missouri. We told you to expect a fight over a proposed constitutional amendment reversing the state's near total abortion ban. First, the battle was over ballot language, then a time crunch for signatures. Then, this past week, a procedural argument threatened plans to put it on the ballot.
The need for the judicial system to protect the people from interference in this process is at its greatest when the subject matter is highly controversial.
Missouri's Supreme Court even had to weigh in on Amendment 3. Tuesday, with just hours to spare, justices reversed a circuit court decision that pulled the measure from the ballot. A Cole County judge ruled petitioners didn't explain well enough which laws would be repealed if the amendment went into effect, an argument the Supreme Court shot down and supporters reject.
At the end of the day, this is an issue about the people accessing the right to the initiative petition process, and we so clearly have had that for over 100 years in our state. It's a process that we've used to do incredible things across the state in recent history, and will continue to do in the future.
Organizers say more than 380,000 voters signed petitions to get this measure on the ballot. This is the fifth legal challenge supporters have won in a process that has stretched on for months. Now, that's not to say more challenges won't be coming, and we'll explore that today. But suffice it to say, the next stop is Election Day. Before that, you're going to hear a lot from both sides of the issue, including some heavy criticism from conservatives who failed in their latest attempts to derail this measure. They're already out with a number of arguments and claims, saying that there's more to this amendment than meets the eye, even arguing reversing the abortion ban would affect parents finding out about gender transition surgeries, or repeating language suggesting abortions would be allowed at any stage of pregnancy. They wouldn't, by the way. Needless to say, opponents of abortion rights aren't taking this decision sitting down.
We have not given up. We believe this Amendment 3 should be defeated, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that that happens.
That's plaintiff Kathy Fork with Missouri Stands with Women, a group vehemently against the amendment that asked people on their website to withdraw their signatures from the petition after they had signed it. Let's look ahead to November and get to the heart of the matter with Emily Wales, CEO of Planned Parenthood Great Plains. Thank you so much for being here. First off, monumental news for your side especially. I'd love to gauge your reaction to what you saw play out in court last week.
We are hugely relieved to have this, the final of 5 initiative issues that have come up, legal challenges to be done. So we're going to be on the ballot, and we're excited to get to talk to Missouri voters without this distraction.
You had to know that this issue would be one of the most challenged this election season. That certainly has already held true. You saw this in Kansas 2 years ago, too. Opponents say that they're going to be putting up a fight till Election Day. What's going on behind the scenes to try to gain support ahead of November?
I think one unanticipated outcome of all of these legal fights is that our base is fired up. Over the weekend, we thought people would be dismayed, and they were shocked. But they were not giving up. Instead, what they did was join a call of nearly 1,000 supporters who wanted to talk about what was happening with the litigation, how they could be sure we're on the ballot, and we are. But we're going to turn that energy and make it work for us the rest of this cycle. You know, we are going to be knocking on doors, talking to voters, up on TV. We feel really confident that if we talk to every Missourian, we're going to be successful in restoring abortion access.
Yeah, and I understand the trepidation waiting for this deadline, because it was right up against the wire, just hours to go before the deadline for printing.
It was, and that certainly wasn't, I think, an accident. You know, the other side waited until the last minute to file this, and when you think you are winning, you don't try deception, delay, distraction. That's what this was. They can see the public polling the same way we can, and I think they're nervous that they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned this a moment ago. There's a lot of confusion around this amendment, especially online, and some misinformation too, with critics either roping other health care issues into this or with the battle over fair ballot language, which was recently changed. How do you navigate that when discussing such a polarizing issue?
I think one of the most important things, and we saw this in Kansas, we'll do the same thing in Missouri, is just being honest with voters and trusting them to be smart and nuanced thinkers. You know, twice now, the courts in Missouri have had to sort of bat away ridiculous arguments. They did it in the fair ballot language. They did it for the initial language to say some of the language the other side is using is meant to distract. They are so far reaching when it comes to outcomes. You know, we're not talking about extremes. We're talking about common sense health care for Missourians and the ability for people to make those choices themselves.
You know, we've talked with some of the critics of this amendment who claim that abortion access or the lack thereof, you could say, maybe isn't as bad as some people make it out to be. I want to play this for you.
It's unfortunately happened in other states where some scary TV commercials come on that women will die or something like that. That's not true. They're getting medical care today. Things are fine in this space today. Nothing is really needed. We're going to get that message out.
things are fine in this space today. I'd love to get your take on that.
I'd love to know where that speaker lives, because I will tell you, as someone who lives in Missouri and who supports healthcare provision in Kansas, we are seeing every single day people who are coming from Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, who are desperate to access care. And in many cases, they have been referred even though the care should have been legal in their home state. Maybe it was a medical emergency, maybe it was fetal demise or an anomaly that is not going to allow a pregnancy to continue, and those patients are being referred to our health centers. There are not enough places for patients to get this critical care. It is a public health crisis, and it's horrifying to me that people would be so dismissive and make this about politics. It is about people making their own decisions, and it's about saving their lives.
And we talk about the need for health and safety, and one of the biggest criticisms that we've seen from candidates who've even met on the broadcast was this notion that if this passes, there would be no regulation. And we heard this a little bit 2 years ago in Kansas. You are in charge of clinics in Kansas. Abortion is legal there. Mm-hmm. Is that even true?
It's a total distraction. It is really frustrating because I do think people don't know enough about this care. But when you come to one of the health centers that we operate in Kansas, what you see is that it's like any other doctor's office. We are regulated, we follow national and local standards, we are proud to offer high quality care in a safe environment, and that is exactly what Missourians deserve. We don't deserve to be targeted and regulated out of existence. That is what the legislature has done. They have made medically unnecessary restrictions for years that really prevented Missourians from getting care. Abortion is health care, and it should be treated the same way every other type of care is treated.
In Missouri, if this amendment passes, there would be regulations in place, is what you're saying.
We would be regulated like every other type of care. What this would do is really shift the burden to the state to defend any restrictions it puts in place. So for a long time, we as the provider have had to say, this is how many patients can't get in, this is how difficult it is to get care, this is so out of line with national standards. Instead, the state has to say, no, this is why we think it's justified to make it more difficult to access. Missourians shouldn't be fleeing their home state to get this care.
We know 9 states will be deciding this at the polls in November, so we'll be watching very closely. Emily Wells of Planned Parenthood, thank you very much.